Hey, what's up everybody? It's Roo Tech, and today we'll be discussing AMD's 3rd gen CPU, the Ryzen 3400g, and whether or not you can game on it. For such a low price of $150, is it too good to be true that it can both be a solid CPU and GPU simultaneously? Or is it actually another testament to AMD's excellence? Well, let's find out. But before we get straight into it, I'd really appreciate it if you checked out my channel, liked, commented if you have any comments or questions that come along as we discuss this CPU, and possibly subscribe. It really helps out the channel. So, the Ryzen 5 3400G is a 4-core, 8-thread processor with a base clock of 3.7 GHz and a boost clock of 4.2 GHz. It is unlocked, so it is also capable of overclocking. So, a pretty powerful CPU already, but it doesn't stop there. Its integrated GPU has a frequency of 1400 MHz, which is pretty fast. In comparison, the Sapphire RX 580 has a boost frequency of 1366 MHz, so it's pretty interesting how the built-in Vega 11 graphics has a faster clock speed. So yeah, like I said, its graphics model is Vega 11, so this thing packs some serious heat. But don't let all these numbers trick you. A good clock speed and graphics model doesn't completely define how good a GPU is. Now let's talk about some benchmarks. I'll be looking through some reliable benchmark websites for this. Let's start with GPU.user benchmark. Essentially, what this website does is it collects data of users that benchmark their devices and publishes the calculated average amongst the people that ran the benchmarks. So, for a point of reference, I chose to compare the integrated Vega 11 graphics with the RX 550 simply because it's an extremely cheap budget CPU that I would assume people on a budget would contemplate buying over using the integrated graphics of the 3400G. Now, a quick look-see at the comparison shows that the Vega 11 is actually faster than the 550 in most categories, but that's solely for the benchmark test. If you scroll down and look at the frames per second average, you'll see that there's a big frame per second difference between the two games tested for both GPUs. On the Vega 11, it gets 73 frames per second on max settings for CSGO, while a 550 would get 108 frames per second on max settings, which is a big difference. For League of Legends on max settings, the Vega 11 gets 89 frames per second, while the 550 gets 103 FPS. So, although the benchmark test gives better markings for the Vega 11 in most of its categories, since the 550 has better optimization for gaming and multi-rendering, it achieves a significantly higher FPS marking. Now yes, that would mean that the Vega 11 is not good as one of the cheapest, most budget modern graphics cards currently for sale, but that doesn't mean you can't game on it. 1080p 60 frames per second is the bare minimum for modern gamers right now, so let's have a look and see if you can get that frame rate and resolution on today's games. So we already discussed that it hits 73 frames per second on max settings, 1080p for CSGO, and 89 frames per second on max for League of Legends. So let's talk about some other popular games. Let's start with a popular, not too demanding one, Fortnite. So this page uses a group of 99 tests taken. So it has taken the average frame rate of 99 different Ryzen 3400Gs running Fortnite at 1080p at all low settings. So it actually averages 62 frames per second, which is very impressive. Now this doesn't mean it's a solid, consistent 62 frames per second, as it is the average frame rate. So in some areas, you'll probably even hit 70 to 80 frames per second, but in more demanding spots where maybe there are a lot of graphic effects or objects to render, you might go below 60 and hit maybe the 50s, but that's usually pretty rare. Next up, let's check out how the 3400G performs on Overwatch, another not too demanding, popular, and competitive game. This one's really impressive. On 1080p, on all low settings, the 3400G is able to achieve an average of 77.3 frames per second. So we're hitting numbers quite a bit over 60 frames per second here. So if you have 75 Hz or above monitor, you'll definitely see those extra frames on this game. Since this does so well on low, let's check out its performance on medium settings. So out of 12 samples, it has an average frame rate still above the minimum, so it's 65 frames per second. Now Overwatch is a graphic effect intense game, so you might encounter some dips when a ton of people are using their ultimate abilities, where those precious frames might be the most important thing to have. So it's probably the best idea to stay at low graphics settings when playing this game, but hey, still an awesome benchmark nonetheless for a $150 CPU-GPU hybrid. Finally, let's check out a lot more of a demanding game, GTA 5. We'll start out by looking at the benchmark on 720p at low. Yeah, this isn't looking too good. Since GTA 5 is so demanding, the 3400G just really can't keep up. So clearly, the 3400G should only be used for low demanding games. So games like Overwatch, Fortnite, Minecraft, League of Legends, CSGO, and Rocket League would be the way to go, but no matter how you look at it, for $150, you get quite the package. A decent CPU and a meh GPU for that price. you really can't complain. Now, I do recommend, if you can, to save up for a graphics card, as it'll just make your gaming experience so much better and worthwhile. I mean, think about it, you'll probably spend hours gaming with whatever you buy, so why not treat yourself and get a real graphics card instead? If you're looking for something budget, I would recommend the 560 or 570 from AMD. Amazing price performance, and you'll get well above 60 frames per second at 1080p on most games at medium to high settings. So yeah, that's going to do it for this quick video. I wanted to do this video for a while, but hadn't had a lot of time to make an in-depth one like this, so I really wanted to save it. I appreciate all of you. I've been getting a ton of views, likes, comments, and subscribes recently, and I can't tell y'all how much it means to me. Thanks a bunch. So yeah, if you enjoyed the video, drop a like. If you have any comments or questions, drop a comment. And if you enjoy the content you're seeing, drop a sub. Thanks for watching. Peace out.